Today, I'm previewing Formula GP by Dux Games, the closest experience you can get on the tabletop to modern Formula 1 with absolutely zero dice movement. Disclaimers need to be stated for obvious reasons, as this is a prototype copy. In the pictures that I show you, I was sent this by the creators, so components and views and all that crap will vary when it comes to the main game everyone receives in future if it happens to get produced once the Game Phone campaign has ended. But this features everything you could want as a modern Formula 1 fan. It's a card-based game for 1 to 6 players. It has a dedicated solo mode where you can go against bots of various difficulties, and playtime is around 1 to 4 hours depending on how many people are playing, along with your predetermined game mode, as it features both sprint races and full advanced Grand Prix. Both game types play completely differently also, as sprints see you just using your cards in hand to race around the track and overtake with relative ease, whilst the more advanced modes feature a gear and speed system along with on-track battles where you can fight to overtake or defend your position by closing off racing lines against various levels of difficulty bots if you're playing solo like I tend to do. Advanced, I will say, is my preferred way to play, as I feel like it's a lot more of a tactical race where every decision you make on track is important, not just in card choice, but because you have to plan out which gear you will end up on next turn. Do you need to change lanes, which could reduce your tyre wear? Do you need to brake or push one more space forward using the black tyre wear cards? Or are you interested in changing your team strategy using blue event cards to assist you? Or will you go all out into a corner and risk spinning off the track, along with deciding when to pit, as you have to change your tyres at least once in a race, just like Grand Prix conditions, along with avoiding on-track incidents like yellow flags, oil leaks and debris. Adding on extra rules like damage can see yours or even your bot cars basically struggling for the rest of the race. But the one good thing about this game is that you can't just crash out like real Formula 1 and then be left sat around the table doing nout whilst everyone else enjoys the game, doing the walk of shame like Lewis Hamilton. But there are ways of fixing some damage or faults which can occur during the race, especially when in every deck you have at least one technical fault card that will pop up when you draw a new hand every round. A hand of cards which is determined by your ERS value on your dashboard. Some cars hold their battery better than others, so even when used in a race to get some track advantage, you can still draw up to 6 cards a turn thanks to your guaranteed 4 cards in hand and ERS value being at 2 bars, which means you can have up to 6 cards in hand. But if you do use up all your ERS on track, you will be stuck with just a 4 card allowance, and you will have to remove cards to stick to your hand allowance value if you're over your limit. That could potentially ruin your race, as your cards determine not just how fast you go, but also do other little things, as there are 3 main types of cards for movement, which is greens, reds and blues. Greens see you often moving the slowest speed, but also let you lower your driver's stress and change lanes without suffering tyre wear. Red sees you go a more modest speed, but if you change lanes you have to reduce that tyre wear. And lastly, blue sees you going flat out at your fastest speed depending on your gear selection, but you do end up losing 1 pip on your ERS and you can't ever change lanes. Whilst yellows tend to be your joker cards, as they can either be played as a green or a red on their own or in pairs, as 2 pairs of green and 2 red cards can be used together to move you in that faster movement speed. So 2 greens will see you go a red speed for that movement, depending on gear selection, and 2 reds will see you go top speed, with you suffering not just the issues red and blue give you usually, but also you have to roll the warning dice when you use 2 cards together. And yes, the yellow warning dice isn't as harsh as the red warning dice you roll when you go too fast into a lower corner speed, but you can still either damage or spin your car, and again, some of your cards can offer bonuses to assist in counter spin, so you just move to the alternative racing line and don't end up spinning off. If you do spin though, you're not always out the race. Yes, you must go last next round to rejoin the track from second gear, but the game is set up in such a way that if your tactics are on point, you can come back and even win it, or at least finish second. At least I had that one. And every car, even the regular back markers, can win if you drive your car correctly with the right tactical decisions. All the decks for the drivers are the same, but all teams have asymmetrical cars which feature strengths and weaknesses based on some of the modern Formula 1 teams. The Red Bull is fast at low and high gear speeds, especially in straights, with a decent overtake allotment and ERS battery, whilst the Williams lacks on ERS and overtake power, but is better at low to mid speeds with much better tyre wear, so can really be more consistent over the course of a long race, leading to great tortoise and hare on track battles of wits. Getting to know your car's strengths and weaknesses means you will be way more consistent over a season-long Grand Prix if you decide to run one of those, with every car also getting a specialised bonus, like Red Bull's getting +1 movement point when they play a green card, and Ferrari getting +1 movement when they are in the DRS parts of the track. And those DRS zones can be brutal in this game, as if you are the lead car and you end up stopping in one, you inadvertently give a great tow to the teams behind you, meaning for free, the second they move into that DRS space, they instantly close up to the gap behind you and can then try to attack from there, with you having to spend cards to boost up your overtaking and defense power, so attacking or defending can often be a big decision, as sometimes it's better to tactically not attack or defend and just let your opponent get rid of valuable cards that they have in hand, and it's those tactical moments that make this game truly special for me, along with the tracks being fully customizable like Rallyman GT, meaning you can have a great number of track layouts available to you, changing up your tactics for every game you play, as certain cars and drivers will perform better on certain tracks. The Red Bull might be amazing around Monza with its high-speed straights, but around the Hungaroring, where it's not just hard to overtake but also features low to mid speed corners, cars like the Williams or McLaren will have better advantages than you, and it will be more about getting a great qualification spot, which can unfortunately come down to a luck of the dice roll, and that is one of my first issues with this game, as qualification can just come down to an unlucky d6 dice. Yes, you add the dice roll, the ERS and tyre power all together to get your high score, but other than using one tyre wear, there's no real way of mitigating your result to get anything better, so you end up with a lot of similar results of 9s or 10s, with the ones who rolled first getting the positional advantage on track, so it can leave a bad taste in your mouth if you just roll a 2 and suddenly your Red Bull is at the back of the grid through nothing but dumb luck, and on certain tracks that could ruin your race as you hope someone in front messes up. The randomness of the dice isn't very often in the race, which is a good thing overall though. Often it comes after you've deliberately pushed the limits, so it acts as a punishment of sorts, but the consequences can be a little lacking overall. I do feel there should be more of a risk to push in too much. Currently just spin off, which can be avoided, as I said previously, or cause some debris on track, or oil, which in my experience tends to act like a bit of a banana in Mario Kart. Everyone can see it, and so you just outright avoid it deliberately. And since people only push the limits to reach another straight gear 8 section, it causes no real issues half the time, with the decks not really handing out much punishments, forcing you into the pits. In fact, I'm surprised by so many bad data cards existing and stuff like that, and I feel they should be a lucky rare miss. You can only hit once every deck, but I realistically took them out and made only one in the deck for the one race, and it tended not to bring up many different incidents. And yeah, I hope that there is something that they address during the full game, because as I said, this was the prototype, and I don't think they've done as many faults to get you more interested in just playing the game for us play testers. But my biggest issue is the setup and play time and the teardown time. As with all the tracks being modular, it means you have to build them up and tear them down before every race, meaning 15 to 20 minutes, if not half an hour, is spent looking through every individual part of the track pieces to see if you not only have the right piece, but you then also have to get every part of the track to fit correctly as a whole. And sometimes I found myself missing one part due to not reading the instructions correctly or identifying which piece is actually needed. As in this prototype I've received, none of the track pieces are numbered, or if they are, I can't see them, so it was hard to spot certain pieces. Hopefully they will address that in the main production run, especially when you're going to have lots of tracks that you can actually build. But there was only 2 tracks included in the prototype, which was the Australia and Monza, and it did tend to slow down the experience for me personally as a solo player, because it took me a while to actually build them up and then actually start playing. But solo is my preferred way to play, and I love that one has been included in the box. And I also love that they have not just various levels of difficulty, but that there is also 2 types of bot. You have the pro bots and the basic ones. Both sets of bots have an easy and hard mode via a light system. So easy bots only have access to the basic attack and defend cards during overtake or defense modes, whilst the hard bots can utilize all the cards. And when you change up their tactic card before the battle, it can be a swine to see them able to use 2 cards or add up their score, even rolling the sodding blooming dice to beat you every sodding time, and then end up blocking your overtake, especially when the deck for the tactics is a bit slim. In this prototype, I have noticed every 5 bots in solo mode get a tactic card to determine what they do during their race, but a new one is drew every time they attack or defend that you can't see. And when using the 5 bots in solo mode, I noticed I was consistently cycling through and seeing the same old tactics again and again. The deck ain't that big, and when you can see what the other bots have, you can sort of predict which ones could be drawn, and so you can gauge pretty easily when to attack or defend and sort of have a decent shout on if you'd be wasting precious cards or not. So hopefully, again, this is a prototype, so that deck will be a little bit bigger in the main game and really cause some tough decisions. But overall, the tactics of knowing when to attempt an overtake is pretty great. It's a lovely mechanic that I've not seen used in any other game system. I like how you can overtake freely cars with a width apart, and how slipstream parts of the track let you come up right behind an opponent who's in front of you, granting you an extra overtake power to make the fight easier, and it just makes this a really deeply layered game. But one of its downsides, I feel, would be teaching the advanced modes to new or first time players. See, sprint mode gets you the quick on track gameplay where cars can just overtake at will if you have the cards for it, but I do feel like advanced mode is the main way most of us, racing tabletop players will want to play this one, because it features all the gadgets and gizmos and everything, right? And it will take some people a couple of games to get everything right, I feel. And for your first few games at least, if you've not been taught this, you will mess rules and you will mess up. Simple as. There's a lot of rules upon rules to get right, and it can from the outside look a bit daunting, I'm not gonna lie. I struggled to get everything my first game. I basically nailed it the second, I feel, and after the 10 or so times I've played, I definitely feel I've got a really good grasp of it now. But Rallyman GT, this is not. You can't just jump into this one, I feel, if you've not played in a while and expect to just play it without issues. You're gonna forget some silly stuff. But if you do stick with it, I feel you'll be treated to something special, as this for me is the ultimate Formula 1 experience you can get on the tabletop. And it's one I want to get funded so I can experience the full version where I can hold my own solo Grand Prix events over different tracks from all over the world and really enjoy playing a great solo experience right from the box. It's not some random custom BGG rule set that isn't balanced properly. This is a must-have for all F1 board game fans and even tabletop racing fans in general. I would say this probably is the best racing game that I have ever played. And fair enough, hold me accountable, I've not played a lot. I've played Waddington's Formula 1, played a bit of Downforce, and I've played Rallyman GT. I have not played Heat, Pedal to the Middle. It seems very similar from what I have seen, but for me, Heat is basically a intro level game system, and it only features like one track, doesn't it, as far as I know. And this is like a really big, you can play a full Grand Prix. It features all the card systems you'd like for movement, features tactics, and it's fun. And I'm really extremely thankful to Ducks Games for getting the chance to experience it. I love it, and I want you to check out the game found. Links are below. Thanks for watching.